here's the
in the
thing.
box here.
I had the opportunity to use another politician. Had I not used it in that fight, and I knew I was gonna win with that fight, so I
You're saying you could have won even better than you did, huh?
Yeah, I could have won even better than I did. And I only went through my cards twice. I didn't go through them.
Yeah.
I didn't go into my third deck.
We played Lincoln. This was Deanna's pick, believe it or not, because it's Memorial Day weekend.
Yes.
So she wanted to play something about honoring our soldiers, because that's what Veterans Day, Memorial Day is about. We looked it up, actually, to find out when Memorial Day was started, and it was just after the Civil War.
It was started in 1866.
So a year after the Civil War.
It was known as Decoration Day for the Union troops. And I'm trying to remember who it was.
There was a general who pushed this through. I don't remember his name.
Yeah, I have to take off my glasses to read it. I was going to have this all ready to go, and I don't. It was known as Decoration Day, and on May 5th, 1868, I'm sorry, not 1866, General John A. Logan, a leader of an organization for Northern Civil War veterans, called a nationwide day of remembrance later that month, the 30th of May. It's designated for the purpose of strewing flowers or otherwise decorating graves of comrades who died in the defense of the country during the late rebellion, and whose body now lie in almost every city, village, and hamlet, churchyard in the land, he proclaimed. So, Memorial Day has special meaning to me in that it was May 30th up until 1968, and my parents got married on Memorial Day in 1965 for the purpose of having a 3-day weekend every year they had of their anniversary.
Oh, that's
and then
forward thinking.
3 years later, they changed it to the last Monday of the month. Also, like most people, I have lots and lots of family that have been in the military, including both sides of the Civil War. And so I wanted something that would commemorate that. I don't typically choose war games. And so we looked through the games we had not played that were Civil War era games, and we decided on this one. It was a little harder than I expected.
Yeah, it was billed as a light war game. It is a light war game. It's basically a card game with a board. I think it's a little bit more than that. Sometimes people talk about a card game with a board, and the board is there to keep score mostly. This is a little bit more than that as far as the board goes. I would say it's an actual war. It's not a war game because there's a certain it's a war-themed game, but it is definitely using the board. It's just that the board is being driven by cards. It's a card-driven war game. We'll just call it a war game for our purposes. But the rules they're simple, and yet there's an exception
to almost everything.
For at least it seems that way, that there's an exception for everything, and sometimes it feels like there's an exception for the exception. And that may not be true, but that's the feel that I got. And as you're looking at the board, you see these cities. The cities, you see how difficult I'm even trying to explain this, but when you're playing the game, you can't even say, okay, I'm going to move troops into the city where I have, like, say, right here, okay? Deanna moved her Confederate troops into Harper's Ferry there. But you see how it's divided in half? Well, that makes a difference. So just trying to explain that difference, that sometimes you take over the whole thing and you have control of that whole area, which her Confederate flag marker there shows she controls the whole area. But if other troops come into that area, there are rules about where you go, because then certain people have to go to one side, and sometimes you have to join them on the other side, and if they retreat, they go the other way, and just trying to explain that takes a lot of words. So the rule book is not big, but something that you would have thought. And I just flipped through the pages to show you that there are a number of pages, and then this is just an explanation of all of the cards in the game. So that's the end of it. So it's 14 pages of rules, but it takes a lot of words to explain some of this, and the people who wrote this rule book were not always consistent in the terms they use. So they'll call these cities, I forget if they call it a location or an area, but sometimes they're talking about just half of it, and they'll call that an area. Mm-hmm. And you're not sure if they mean a half or if they mean the whole thing. So there's some confusing, I guess, ambiguity, maybe, is that the word? There's some things in the rules that just aren't explained well enough. And so you sit here and you spin your wheels trying to figure out, well, what do they mean? What do they mean? When we started it, the first several turns were, all right, let me read the rule book because I'm not sure what to do. And the more we played it, the more we figured things out. But even after we'd been playing it for a little bit, we were like, wait a minute, what do we do here? And it's such a simple game, you would have thought that the rules would have been simple enough, but they were more complicated than you would have expected. Right. So the learning curve on this thing, I would not have anybody brand new to board games break this out. They won't have any idea at all what they're doing.
And it's a lot longer than what you would think it would be. It says 90 to 120 minutes, absolutely every bit of that. I was kind of preoccupied during it, the whole game, and
the first one, especially this one,
take forever.
This is a learning game,
yes.
And so it is going to take longer. Probably, I didn't look to see when we started playing this. Let's see. I want to say it was around 1.
No, it was closer to.
Well, the race.
Maybe. The race
was supposed to start,
and they were about to start the. It was at the beginning
5
of
o'clock.
The Tennessee LSU.
They
game.
said.
Yeah, the race still hasn't started, but it was at the beginning of the Tennessee LSU game because that's what I was listening to. Well, I was also trying to play the game, but it was.
So what time was that?
I think it was about 1.
Okay, that's what I had guessed. So that's 4 hours. We it didn't seem like 4 hours. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
Because it didn't seem like it dragged for 4 hours. It seemed more to me like an hour and a half, maybe 2. But
maybe it was 2.
Even so, 3 hours long. 3 hours. But that's because we didn't know exactly how to play this, and we kept and look at this.
And looking at the rules.
Yeah, and I before I did this, I read the rule book a day or two ago. I watched a video about how to play it. I even went on the computer and printed out, my own version of the rules. Now this wasn't trying to rewrite the rule book. It was just notes about, okay, you do this, then you get 6 actions on a turn. So here's your 6 actions. You can deploy a card, but you see, here's the thing. Okay, you can deploy a card, but you deploy a card, there's 4 different things you can do on the top of that. Yes. And then you have to explain that there's 3 different things. The way you resolve deploying a card, that's what's done on the top of this card, this little top border here that I'm showing you. You ignore the rest of it. If you want to deploy, you just do this. But you see, sometimes there's pictures on the side, like this one, or
here's a good one. This one is if you're.
Well, I was trying to find one that had more than one picture, so like this one has 2, and it could have 3
like this one.
Possible.
Typically, if they have an extra picture here, they don't have text here.
Yeah, that's true. But you do the card. You do the card. That's great. You play the card differently if you're using an action on the side than the way you do it on the top. And sometimes there is text at the bottom of a card, like this one has some text. So look at this one. Actually, you can do 3 different ways on this one. You can deploy. You could use one of the actions on the side of the card, or you could use the text on the bottom. So there's 3 different ways to use it, and you do it completely different if you're going to deploy versus use the side. And in this case, sometimes like it has a star in it. Well, that's only used for combat.
It's only
this one has got a train on it, so there's some movement that you can do. But hey, when you do movement, that means if I do that, I can take one or several or all of them, and I can move them to an adjacent controlled area. Or I can take one and move it to anywhere, as long as I can connect it along these railroad tracks to a spot that may be all the way over here on the board, and I can move it as far as I can go.
Pause. There's a wasp.
There's a wasp. And that's a real wasp.
It is.
Yikes. Okay, I'm going to give this to you. I can't pause it, but...
Okay, that was eventful, and we completely trashed the board game room in an attempt to kill the wasp, but we finally got him. So I will hand the phone back to Chad.
My hand's shaking. I'm telling you, we had these weird wasps. She calls them dirt daubers. She says they sting. I don't know anything about them.
They all sting.
I get those all the time, but this was a red wasp. Those things, I've been stung twice in it one day. I went out,
one on each elbow,
and I didn't bother them at all, and they just sting. And that one was in here, and that had to go, and I whacked that thing a bunch of times, and it just would not squish up.
He was a zombie wasp.
Oh my goodness! And then of course, once I went ape on him, he knew it was on. He's flying around here.
It was quite funny
we definitely had to stop filming for that one. Okay, I don't even know what I was saying anymore. It's a more complicated game than we would have thought, but hey, we played it, and I think by the time we were done, we had figured it out.
For the most part,
I think that if we played it again, and we'd really start to get it, and it would not be that big of a deal. But it is a learning curve for anybody that's not into hobby board games. Don't buy this. Don't buy this. You will not know what in the world you are doing. Because I even had to look up. I mean, we've got 1,100 board games. I mean, we're used to this kind of stuff, and I still had to look up videos. And there on Board Game Geek, there's a place where people can ask questions, and there's a matter of fact, there's 140 questions, I believe it was, maybe 120, 140 questions on Board Game Geek asking, hey, how do you play this? What about this? Because it's just not as clear.
It's not really as it could intuitive.
Be. Yeah, and even trying to say that, I'll rewrite it and it'll be clearer. Well,
there's still situations that you aren't real sure what to do with it. Like when I won this game.
Throw that in. The South won again. Every time we played a Civil War game, you've won except for one time. And we were playing. Where is that game? This one, Parker Brothers, 1863 Civil War game. I won, and she had a bad attitude about it. This game's stupid. So
and there's parts of this that I still think were kind of stupid. Like you couldn't use your fort to help you defend, even though
Actually, you could, because that was one of those rules we worked through.
Oh, that's true.
You were correct.
And then
you could use it.
On some of the cards you have, you can use as a benefit. So there was this high ground, and then there was this one. And so I think I probably would have won with just this one, because I had 20 to your, I don't remember.
Yeah, I don't remember either. 12.
Yeah, it was some ridiculous number. And I played both of these, and we had to look up, because there's no rule saying you can only play one of these benefit cards, or you can stack them, or you can only play one of each kind. So we looked it up, and once somebody said, as long as they're not the same, you can play different ones. And so these are the two main ones.
Yeah, we weren't sure if you were allowed to play just one card in reaction to, because I was, well, you were attacking, right? You were attacking me?
No, you attacked me.
I attacked you. Okay, that was a bad idea.
Yeah. Yes, because
well,
I
didn't know that you had the ability to bring all those in. Yeah,
he didn't know I had these two in my hand, and so he attacked me.
She's playing a card in response to me, and we didn't know if you're only allowed to play one card in response, or if you could play as many as you want. And as far as we could tell, you can play as many as you want as long as you're not playing the same card twice.
Right. So I played the high ground, which gave me 2 points.
And let's point out.
I was also able to bring in troops from here,
right,
as reinforcement.
To reinforce.
And then I only had 2 stars on this one. But because I had all these troops sitting here that I had built up, and I could move them up, and I had the high ground, I didn't even need this. I probably didn't need this. That together gave me 4 points that I probably didn't even need. Didn't matter. I was gonna win it because I knew if I beat him on this one, I was gonna win the game.
But it was close.
It was close. He had me completely surrounded up here.
Well, here's the deal. Here's how she won. Okay, she was able to get enough victories that Europe took notice of the South. This is a Europe really track. Happened. It didn't happen in real life, but it happened here. So she was able to get enough victories that it convinced Europe that the South was a legitimate country, and so they recognized the South, and they came in here and were allies with the South to fight against the North. So once Europe enters the war, the North is over. They've lost, right. And that's what happened. Now the North.
3 cards, but no, I was still at 4.
Yeah, 3 points. But see, the North can win automatically. There's a couple automatic victory conditions. If the North takes Richmond, which I did, and if the North also takes Vicksburg, which I was in
here,
right here.
But I had backed him
I was
up.
in Vicksburg earlier. And by the time, and nobody else was there, I had sole control of Vicksburg. And while I was there, I began to move troops out of Washington. Washington is a port city, so it says port here, and that means I can get on a ship and I can go to any other port. So I went over here to Fort Monroe, and looky there, it's right next to Richmond. And Richmond, if I'd attacked it from, I can't read what that says.
Cold
Harbor, then they had pretty good defenses already built in. Whether she had anything here or not, she would have had to have troops here to make use of it. But it would have been a +6 that I would. That's the troop strength would have been a 6. But if you come from the ocean, they're not as well defended. So it was only +2. Well, I can handle defeating 2 better than I could. Defeat 6. And anyway, by the time I got here, she didn't have any troops in here whatsoever. So I just walked in with, I think, 9 troops, and took Richmond. So now that I've done that, all I have to do is have Richmond. Well, in the meantime, while I'm working on this, she brought a few troops over, and we did not have Vicksburg all to ourselves as the Union. She had troops there on the other side of Vicksburg. And so it was a contested area, and I can't have a contested area to win. Well, she ended up building up a big enough army. It was bigger than, I think I only had 3 troops up there. And so she's got this big stack of guys and comes after me. So I retreated to
bigger stack than that.
To what is that? Corinth, it looks like. And then she chased me out of there too. And I came down here to Fort Henry. And then I was able to come back up to this point, and I was trying to take Vicksburg back when I attacked her. She pulled these cards out of nowhere that brought in extra reinforcements and stuff.
That I have had in my hand since about the 5th turn.
And because she won that battle, that was what tipped the scales for Europe.
To move on down.
And they said, okay, we will join the war with the South, and so I lost. I did enjoy it once we figured it out.
I did. Did I enjoy it as much as Battle Cry, which is kind of a Memoir 44 Civil War game? It's been too long for me to say whether or not. And now I only won that one by luck. I did not meet the missions, but I still won it. So I don't know. I don't know if I like it more than Battle Cry. I did enjoy it. I did like it. So, which is unusual for me because I don't typically do.
But if it has anything to do with the Civil War, you really like it anyway.
I was looking for that.
We were in a board game store years ago, and she didn't know anything about war games. Now, this is not a war game. We would call this a war-themed game. A war game is something much more complicated, and they usually have rule books the size of, if you remember what a phone book looked like. I am not kidding on some of those. And we went into this board game store, and she looks and sees this whole section of Civil War games, and they were war games. And she says, "Oh, let's buy this one, and let's buy this one." I said, "Those are war games." "I don't care." I said, "If you knew what they were, you'd care." "No, I wouldn't." Well, now she, I think, has a better understanding.
We'll be playing those.
So this is a nice strategic game. I really liked it as we were playing. For all of the games we've been playing lately, very light kind of thing. I don't know if we've ever mentioned strategy in a game, but there's been nothing like this.
This
has had strategy.
Now, there were more ways for the South to win than there was for the North to win. I had like 3-4 different ways I could win. 5 different ways I could win. I focused on trying to get Europe into it. I don't even remember what the others were. I think
to take Washington.
Yeah, I wasn't doing that.
Or to deny the Union points at the end of each
that's right.
redraw.
That's right. And
so there were 3 of those.
A little bit. I had multiple troops here, but I was never going to go into Washington because if I had gone in this way, it would have been a +10, which would have been the way I would have went because he had troops sitting here. So I couldn't have gone that way. And he had troops here and controlled here and here. And I think here.
Well, at one point
here,
I did.
Here and here.
You came back through there and wiped some of that out.
I did. But I was completely surrounded without very many troops, and he had way more than I could, and I didn't know if he had any of those reinforcement cards that he could have called troops in. So I was never going to go into Washington. That was never going to happen. And so because I had cards that you can... Whoops. Some of those upside down. They're called politician cards. I could discard a card.
Here's one from my side.
From his side. They kind of look like this.
Pick it up because the camera won't.
I could discard a card alone and put this one permanently out, and I could move my Europe tracker down one. I had 2 of those in my hand at one time, and I was going to play that on my turn, and I would have won the game until he played this one from his side, which moved it back up. And at that point, I'm sitting here going, "Duh!" And I could only have 4 cards in my hand, so I was going to play my entire hand for those 2 points. And I couldn't do anything else, and I still needed 1 more to go. So there were a couple of times where I had him a lot closer, and he managed to wiggle out of that. Now, yes, I do typically play the South. That's because I am not originally from the South, but my family is. It has nothing to do with anything else. I just want to make that statement clear. I am very much an Abraham Lincoln fan. So I guess my roots are from Lincoln, Illinois, and so I have learned a lot of stuff about Abraham Lincoln, and so that's kind of where my heart is at. But because I grew up in the South, I typically play the South, whereas my husband is a transplant, a more recent transplant to the South. Grudgingly.
Ohio.
And so, just wanted to make that clear. I am actually more of an Abraham Lincoln fan than I am of a Southern fan, I guess you would say.
Okay.
So.
Well, it's come to the point where we give it a rating.
This is going to be hard. Because of the rules, I can't
the same
give
thing,
it
you know,
a high score.
I might have given it a, and I don't know yet exactly what. I got to think it through a little bit, but I already know I'm not going to give it as high a score as I think I would like to give it.
Right.
Because the rules were so hard to understand what we were doing. And we play this a couple more times. That may go away. And it becomes very easy and we know what we're doing. But right now, it's not quite that easy. And at least our experience here, even if we figured it out now, and I don't know if we have it 100%.
I don't even know if we've got 100% figured out.
But our experience of playing it today was a little difficult.
Right.
A little difficult. And because it was, I would like to give a rating a high score when I didn't have to fight with the rules. Like, I know what I'm doing, and it's all about my strategy and my decisions. What do I want to do? And there was that, but there was an equal part of, what can I do? Right. And is this okay? Or can I do that? And let me read the rules. And she needs to read the rules. And
there's a little fiddliness to it.
Well, fiddliness, maybe. I guess I could see that.
Because I was always having to count that up, count up how many I have.
Yeah, there was a little bit of that.
So there was a little bit of fiddliness to it.
Are they double-sided? They are. Well, you know what? I saw that you could get... And I used to have some of these little standees. You know, if you get a game that has cardboard standees to move around, there's the little plastic stands. And I've seen people sometimes get those. And you can stand them up that way. And then I can see, and you can see both on that side.
So multiple slots or something.
Well,
I don't know. Because you get a lot on there after a while. Like, I probably had 7
Well, here's the
or 8
thing. You could take, you know, like there are 3 2s here. So I could take my 2s and stack them and then sit my stand on top of it to know that, all those are 2s.
Right.
And I can see that there's, you know, it might make it a little easier. But anyway, there are probably some solutions to that. But good game. A little confusing on the rules, just a little bit. So I think I'm going to give it more than a 5. I'm not going to give it an 8 because it wasn't that. It was harder to understand. All that brain lock was involved. So is it a 6 or a 7?
I was going to give it about a 6.5.
Right in the middle.
Right in the middle.
Well, hey, I'll do the same then. 6.5.
It's not going to get the real McCoy stamp of approval, but it is it's a quality game.
Yeah.
For 2 people, if you don't mind thinking a lot.
Once you figure this out, the rating would go up.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it would go up
a bunch.
Any more than an 8, maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, I really did enjoy the game.
I did enjoy it.
I'd say it might have the potential to go to an 8, but a 6.5.
Okay.
All right.
6.5.
And this was Deanna's choice. Now, what I was thinking was, if we wanted to get in a little bit more play, I could pick it again for next week because it would still be a new game. Well, technically, it wouldn't.
No, it would not be.
I say, let's try it again. Well, we won't do that. So I will pick a game next week. And school is out.
Yes. Finally, school is out.
We don't have to worry about short, fast games, and Deanna didn't with this one. We knew this was going to be at least 2-hour game. So
we do need to get the air conditioning fixed first.
Yeah. All right, then. We will see you next week, and hopefully we will not have any more WASP interruptions. I need a catchphrase for saying goodbye, like Sam Healy.
Yeah. See you on the flip side.
Yeah, catch you on the flip side. Well, I don't know what. We'll figure something out. Until then, you're just going to get goodbye, and I'll see you later.